Hey everybody, this is Brittany here from Surfing Waves of Light, and in today's video we're going to be answering a question from one of our lovely subscribers, Lynn. And you may have seen my last video, or my second to last video, Your Reaction Makes It Real. And the guides in that video were talking about quantum physics, quantum entanglement, and how this world operates as far as we're creative beings and we always have creative energy flowing through us. And so when we focus on something, we create it. And so anything we react to in the same tense also gets created. And so we had a question from Lynn. So this is what Lynn said. And if you want to watch that other video first and then come to this one, that's fine. So Lynn said, okay, so I have been 33 years married, going through what had hoped would be a really amicable divorce, but my partner chose to make it harder than it needed to be and got himself a girlfriend during it, which rifted our family. How does one not react on the one hand, as we don't want to create from holding on to situations, but then we are told to express them and not shove them down unacknowledged? I'm confused. Aren't we supposed to feel our feelings? So how are we to react to heartbreak without it causing more of the same unintentionally? Would love the guides to answer this, please. Bless you for sharing. So, aren't we supposed to feel our feelings? How are we to react to heartbreak without it causing more of the same unintentionally? Would love the guides to answer, please. All right, so I just want to tell you all that I've had this question with me for over a week now. And I've been wanting to sit down and channel on it. I've been wanting to give more attention and time to this YouTube channel, post more regularly. And every time in the past week I've gone to sit down for this, the guides told me it wasn't the right time. So I appreciate your patience. One thing that I'm in the process of learning is flow and timing. And also because of the not only complexity, but the commonness of this experience, of, wanting to be at peace, but having feelings come up. This is a common experience among many people for many different situations. And so the guides asked me to sit with this for a little bit longer. And sometimes I think that they are able to show me things in my own life, things that come up for me, and then I can play that situation out, apply the tools, and then I can channel even better for my own, and they can use my own personal experiences to explain. And it's actually funny, the day that this question got posted, I had a really big upset, one that I super reacted to. So I'm sure they'll be referencing that in the video, but before I start channeling, I just want to send my love out to you, Lynn. Divorces, deaths, all these different, grief of losing someone, it's a very heartfelt situation, and my love and my compassion goes out to you. And so now the guides are going to come through and they're going to share with us what they really think. And trigger warning, because I have gotten some insight on this. They're going to bring up a topic that I've been hesitating to channel on, and that is the nature of relationships on the 3D planet. And I just think that we have such an ingrained idea about what a relationship is and how important they are, especially marriages and child, parent, all these different relationships. We have a lot of specialness assigned to them. And so I think this question is giving the guides the wide open to be as honest and forthright as they can be without disturbing your peace too much. They are just saying that they like to go slow because, well, they'll tell you. We're going to start channeling. So anyway, thanks for listening to this intro. I hope you enjoy the video. It's going to be a really good one. I've been simmering on this topic for over a week. So I'm going to just take a minute to call my guides in, and then we'll see what they have to say. Greetings, dear beings. We are the Arcturian Council here with Asante Germain, and we are pleased to be with you all. We are in the transitory state of assisting beings on planet Earth, incarnate in physical bodies, to practically master the application of quantum decision making. We are in the business of assisting you from going on the 3D hamster wheel to the 5D decision making, the quantum decision making, the decision making that assists you in changing the playing field, that creates new realities for you every moment of every day as you navigate this labyrinth that you all call life. And so this labyrinth at the bottom levels is quite toxic, it is quite heavy, it is full of unloving emotions and experiences. But as you make quantum decisions, these experiences, the life that you see, the life that you have, it shifts, it changes. And so it eventually becomes more like a heaven on earth till you get to a point where you have no need for a body anymore, because you are not attached, because you are not connected, because your soul is no longer wanting anything that is here, good or bad. You become a neutral pod of unconditional love, neutral to anything that occurs, neutral to any wants or needs, just in perfect peace, as channeling the unconditional love of the universe creates fullness, creates fulfillment, creates perfectness. And from that perfection, you all can ground in love, you can ground in light, and you can be satisfied, you can be whole. There is nothing that this world in this body can offer you that is above that. And yet the mission of us is to help you to receive more of that love through the quantum decision making, which in its simplest terms can be any decisions that are made in the light and love, in the light of pure unconditional love. And we want to tell you, dear beings, that where you all are in the consciousness game is at different levels of consciousness, and many of you, including this being, are still learning what pure unconditional love really means, what the highest expression of love in this dimension is possible, because you have been taught a very conditional, a very contracted, a very limited idea of what love is. And so love is almost always attached to suffering, attached to guilt, attached to compromise. And this is something that we are unwilling to compromise. So we will start off today with our true feelings about relationships on this planet, dear beings. Yes, some of you have read the Course in Miracles, and others of you are understanding and intentioning our flow, or have this as innate knowledge. And so here it is, dear beings. You all have taken human beings and you have turned them into things. You have turned them into things that you own. You have turned them into energies that you are not willing to surpass and move through. You have held them so tightly in the white knuckle grip of unsurety, of confusion, and of fear. And that is what this society has taught you all to be. They have taught you to objectify men and women for their physical quantifiable beauty. They have taught you to look upon a person based on their income, based on their family, based on their affluence, based on many factors that are outside of the realm of pure connection of flow, pure interaction based on beings being whole within themselves and coming together in the natural flow. And so it is not that we are against long-term partnerships, dear beings. No, it is just that we find that the typical definition of a marriage, of any kind of long-term relationship, It includes suffering, it includes sacrifice, and it includes compromise. And I want you to know these are all things that are attachments that keep you here on planet Earth. And so at this current level of consciousness, we are not exploring, we are not even recommending that you release your significant others or that you go off on your own, because being separated is not the answer either. The answer to this question is becoming neutral, becoming equanimitable between two beings, just as you are equanimitable between yourself and the apple that sits on your table, or between yourself and the bed that is in your home. There is so much attachment, so much connection, so much holding on to of beings when you're in relationships, and this is natural. We have seen this cycle thousands of times as this being, through this being's eyes, as she has grown up. We see women who are in a relationship with a man and who and this can happen on both sexes, but we will just emphasize the woman here first. She's in a relationship with a man. She pours her heart and soul into that relationship. The men work and the women stay at home. They labor and birth and raise the children. They take care of the household affairs. They give all their creative energy into the family. And for many beings, this is aligned. This is natural. This is correct. For many of you at this time are finishing up experiences of 3D that you wanted to have, and having children in this sense is only really possible in the 3D. Having children with the fear, with the worry, with the anxiety, even applying that to your significant other, that can really only occur here. For once you move into love, love is the equivalent of freedom on this planet. And freedom is not only giving other beings autonomy in their decision making, but it is also releasing all fear from within oneself, the freedom to trust that all is going to work out. And so we have seen many beings, and we work with them even now through this being's consulting work at Surfing Waves of Light. We see many mothers who have given their heart and souls to their kids and their husbands, only to have their husbands move on at a later time in life, and their children to move on as well, leaving these beings feeling empty for their creations which they had taken so much time, so much love, and so much care to put into these beings. All that love and all that care that is this being's creative sexual energy is now gone. And now they are left with themselves. And now they are much older, and they are much more tired from life. And now they have to start anew. And we have the utmost empathy and sympathy for this situation, dear beings. Any of you that are in this situation, we feel for you. And yet we want to call your attention to the absurdity of these relationships. We want to call your attention to the new north that has been set over the past few years and decades. The one that says that every being on this planet who wishes to ascend must become whole within themselves. They must become the entirety of who they are, not needing anyone else to fulfill them. And yet from that neutrality, attracting a community, attracting a chosen family that they interact with, that they help, that they include in their lives to help each other ascend, to shine light on every situation, showing what is to be true. And so we want you to feel your feelings, dear beings. Dear Linn, we know that you must feel your feelings. When something does feel real, that tells you it is time to feel those feelings. Now, this being, in her reaction isn't real video, she was not applying that quantum level decision making to every upset that is in her life. She is still full of upsets, and that is her life's work. That will be the work of her life for the next 50, 70 years, is to weed through the upsets. We will bring the triggers. She will have an upset, and then she will experience the feelings. She will find the peaceful thought, and then she will feel more at peace with that. And then the next time the trigger comes, either she will not be upset, or she will be going through the quantum spiral of decision making, which is where every time you experience a situation, it's a little better and a little better and a little better. And dear Lynn, we want you to think of our answer in terms of the spiral, because we can see from our energetic visioning that this situation is quite sticky, that there is a lot of congestion, a lot of layers to the situation. And so the more complex a situation, the more the mind is ingrained in a situation, the harder it is going to be to apply the simplistic recommendations of the guides, being to not react to a situation. Now, some beings can, in a heartbeat, turn that on. They can release a situation. But what we find with relationships is that the more sacrifice and suffering you put into something, the more of yourself you give to something, the more attached you tend to be to it, the more that you don't want to let go, the more that you want to hold on. And we see that many beings that are older, that are women, are holding on because they feel that they actually are entitled to more of the creative energy of the being that they had been with. And in a sense, you are right, dear beings. You are right that you deserve more of their energy, that maybe you feel they didn't give enough, or that you gave your all. And because of that, there was so much of your creative energy imbued in that situation. And so losing your dear husband to another woman or to another situation, it can bring up such a level of loss that we have nothing but compassion for. And yet at the same time, we want you to remember that this life is happening perfectly. We want you to know that when divorces come, when new girlfriends enter the scene, this is actually for you, dear being. This is actually the best thing that could ever happen to you. And we know in the lonely moments, we know in the moments of going through your day, you wake up or you go to work or you go to your volunteering or you're doing your day, you can feel so alone, especially in these cities, especially in these common places. And yet, many times the deep experience of sadness is in order to allow you to live out those experiences, so that the next time they come up and the next time they come up, you will become a little more disattached, a little more detached, a little more detached, until finally that trigger no longer triggers you anymore. So this being, with her quantum decision making of not making something real, she started that by when she was getting feedback at work or at home or in life from her boyfriend. Instead of reacting immediately to that feedback, she would just listen. And she found that when she just listened and she didn't white knuckle the situation, these situations, like thoughts flowing down a river, like a float flowing down a river, they just went downstream and they fixed themselves. And this is how 5D works, dear beings. When you are truly in flow, 90 to 100% of the time. In fact, it could be even as low as 30% of the time. If you are truly in flow and you see a problem come up and you look upon it, and even if you react to it, it is okay to react. But then eventually you say to yourself, and even if you have to fake it at first to believe it, but then eventually do, you say to yourself, I trust that the universe has brought me this experience, and that even though right now I cannot understand it, even though right now I do not know what to do with this energy, it is evoking trauma, it is evoking fear, it is evoking deep sadness, jealousy, hatred, resentment within me. Even though I am so sad, I know on a deeper level that this movie we call life only brings to us what is needed in each moment. And you see, dear beings, what is happening now is that the lowest common denominator of energy is shifting upward. So back in the time of the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, the 60s, the 30s, the 20s, Earth's range of how low frequency an experience could exist was much wider. You see, there was a lot of physical trauma. There was a lot of physical, deep, low frequency things happening here. We think of World War II, the trench wars. We think of all genocides, all of that deep negativity that occurred on this planet, these deeply harmful experiences. And as many of you light workers agreed to incarnate here, you knew that incarnating with your vibration would help to end those very severe situations. And so what has happened is, while there are still parts of the world where some of this stuff is happening, not that it matters, because your attention should not be on any part of the world but your own. In fact, the part of your world that you perceive with your eyes and with your feeling self, that is the situation, that is the part of the world that is your concern. For most of you, the lowest common denominator of negative energies is much higher than what has been in the past. And so what is happening, like a bar that is moving up a bar that is moving upward energetically, we will say, we cannot think of a good metaphor for this. There is a deep clearing of the lowest common denominator energy frequencies as they are held within the body in the form of thoughts and beliefs and actions. Those are needing to be released at this time, because anything that is that low will not make it on to the next plane, will not make it on to the next levels of energy. And so many of you are having deeply traumatizing situations occur. You are having deaths of loved ones, sticky divorces, difficulties in relationships. It seems right now that the world is in chaos, and yet this chaos has but one purpose. The purpose being that it is here to show you where you are not whole. It is here to show you where you have not yet put the trust of the universe, the understanding of the universe into action. And so know that we are not in time over here. And so a situation may come up and you may be sad about it for a long time. And yet, as the cycles of the spirals move up and up and up, as long as you are willing to try to see situations from peace, you are willing to use the tools, you are willing to take the actions in your life that will bring you love, that will bring you freedom, that will bring you peace and joy, and releasing any attachments that you have to these situations that, in truth, if they are moving forward, it is because they are no longer serving you. And your work now is to see the emotions that come up and begin to understand why they are there. Why are you so deeply attached to this man? Why are you so upset about him having a girlfriend? We understand this in logical terms, and yet we don't assist you by keeping you in the victim mindset. We don't assist anyone, and we will tell you that this being was deeply in a victim mindset for a couple of days, and she was feeling it. And that is what she needed to do. She needed to write about it. She needed to feel it. She needed to remember again. She's had so many states of peace lately. She needed to remember again what it is like to have that feeling of anger, of upset, and be really super attached to that thought. And then she needed to remember that what it means to let that go. And we tell you that you dig holes for yourself when you attach deeply to situations. It is much easier to see a situation and be neutral to it and let it go by. It is in the attachment to it that all of these creations, entire worlds are opened up through attachment. And that is what you are experiencing, endless worlds of attachment. And it seems simple in our explanation, and we know it is not simple in its execution, but there are things that you can do to assist in remediating and eliminating the pain, even if temporarily. And we are telling you, dear beings, at this time, while painful lessons are coming up because of the raising of the frequency, there's also a lot of power on the other end. And so if you can find a way to sit in quiet, taking a couple of nice deep breaths and setting your intention for what you want. In this situation, it may be, I want to be guided to peace around the situation. I want to know myself as a whole being. I want to understand or have clarity around what energy is going to replace this energy of my dear husband. Where am I pouring my creative life soul into now that this situation has changed? Now that my dear love husband we are going through a divorce is moving forward without me, and it feels lonely and it feels sad. But we will tell you that these loneliness and sadnesses, these are things that your soul wanted to experience, but it is not super interested in experiencing them much longer. And sometimes you must live out an experience fully to release it. In your culture, there tends to be a huge emphasis on restriction, and that is fine. That is workable for some beings. And based on where the energies were many years ago, the low frequency, there was much benefit to having a temperate outlook to things, having a restrictive outlook. But we also see that many times beings move away from something through having the full experience. And having a relationship with a man and then divorcing him, this is a complete experience, one in which you will never need to have again in this lifetime or any others. You will never attach yourself to another being the way you have this one. You will never give away so much of yourself to a situation that does not create something that you can maintain to constantly fill you up. And this is part of our issue with common day relationships and even having children. When it is not done from a 5D spiritual sense, from a complete relaxation and letting go of what is to come, there is so much stickiness that is involved. Because having a child and having a husband, these tend to come in at an ego attachment from a lower frequency with lots of greatness upon them, and yet these attachments that are in a lower frequency dimension, they will eventually fizzle out. And in the meantime, the bridge, the foundation of this creation, it is not so strong. And so it is even worse when you pour your heart and soul, as we know you did, into this relationship, dear Linn. When you pour your heart and soul into something for it to be broken. And so part of this grief for you is the grief of the loss of your own creations. But know that nothing is ever lost. And know that your energy is pure and special, and that it will place an imprint upon the beings that you have given to eternally. And that you also don't know how this situation is going to play out. You don't know. But your work now is yourself. And that is the main issue we have with relationships, is it often becomes a place where beings can deflect their self-work and focus it on other beings. And so the upset really is not from anything anyone else does. It is the upset, when deeply looked at, comes from a place of things that have been there that you have not needed to face because of the comfort of a family, because of the comfort of other beings. And it is in being alone that most of the feelings that you all need to experience to move past, that is where they will come up. That is where they will be, because it is hard for them to come up when you are constantly in the presence of others. And so even when people always live together, we can find that to be quite heavy and toxic, because there is the way the planet is going, the way the energies are shaping. It would be in the highest benefit of all for each being to have their own space, to have their own place that is full of just their energies, where they can journal, they can transmute, they can feel into their feelings, they can create a life within a small space that is their own. That is the brilliance of this creative lifetime, is that you can create a life all on your own. You can live out a path where you don't ever have to sacrifice, you don't ever have to suffer, you don't ever have to compromise, because you will be taking each decision from the soul. And even if there are quote unquote bad experiences that come, you will know that they were meant to come because the soul beckoned it. And you will know that it is just another way for us to help you lift off the low frequency 3D matching experiences that your soul wanted to have, that your unconscious being was hypnotized with at a young age. And that is why this processing work is so important. That is why this awareness work is so important, because so many of your beliefs about love, about relationships, about everything has been programmed into you before you were conscious of it. And so this time in your life, when you have an upset and you actually think, what are the thoughts that are contributing to this upset? it will be the first time you have ever looked upon them and given your focus to them. Because before you were unable to focus on them, you were in the imaginary life states of childhood. And now that everything is real, quote unquote, you must look at it. It is only from the full attention of the consciousness looking upon a situation, looking upon a thought, and intentioning for the Holy Spirit, for the universe, and for the true north of pure love and light to be placed upon it. That is how you heal. That is how things are changed. You do not have to do anything, truly, dear beings. It is not your job to do anything, but to look at your upsets. You don't even have to let them go. You just have to look at your upsets, and you need to ask the universe, you need to ask Spirit to intervene on your behalf, to come in and to show you the path to peace, and then allow, and then trust, and then have patience for some of these feelings. Again, depending on how messy the experiences are, some of these experiences are going to take a little more time to untangle. They may. Depends on your willingness to let go. It depends on your decision making. It depends on what you want. Because anytime beings are in a sticky situation, and we are not speaking specifically about you, Linn, this is a general expression of these situations, and we are using you as an example, which we appreciate, but know that this is not directed towards you specifically. Leave what does not resonate, dear beings. Anytime there is this stickiness in these relationships, it throws both beings off their path. And when a divorce comes, that is where a lot of the frustration comes. It is I went against my own guidance to support and create with you. And now we are separated. And now I am full of regret for all the times that I did not choose. And yet you can know that it was perfect to choose in that way. It was perfect to go about things in that way. And that this divorce is perfect too. In fact, it is serving you. And we are hoping that you will see that there is options for alleviating sadness now. In fact, we are feeling inspired to tell you that it would be good to take a long trip away from your home, away from your experiences, for there is a lot out there for you, dear Linn, for all of you. Any of you going through a tough situation, if you are staying in the home, the place, the city where this all is occurring, it can feel like those feelings keep getting brought up and brought up and brought up. And we channeled in another video that when you have a wound that is open, that is sore, that is festering, you do not need to continue to throw salt and dirt on that wound. You can actually take it away to another place where it can be nurtured. You all have been indoctrinated that healing is full of needles and incisions and medicines that make you sick. And yet healing can be a gentle process. So we invite you to invoke the universe, the Holy Spirit, to help you with your feelings. Feel your feelings. Those feelings are there to show you that what you've done in the past is off track. It is time for each and every being to prioritize themselves. It is time for you to figure out situations where you do not need to suffer and sacrifice and compromise. For the modern day relationship going forward will be one of two beings who commit to each other with common interest, and yet give each other the freedom of flow, the freedom to interact with whomever they want, to create whatever they want, knowing that their flow most often brings them to their partner. And the freedom that you give another is the freedom you gain for yourself. And so we will leave you with this. This being has been in many weddings. She has stood by her friends at the altar many times in her 20s. She has had a lot of friends before she became deeply spiritual. Many people that were always around her. She still has many friends, but back then she was all over the place. And her family and friends who know her will agree with this and laugh as we say this. And this being is always happy for her friends. She has never had a deep desire for marriage or any kind of big party or wedding ceremony. Even before this being was deeply conscious and deeply spiritual, every time she stood at the altar and heard what her friends would say, the commitments that they would make to their loved ones, all she could hear was that her friends were agreeing to give up their feeling self, to give up their own guidance forever, now and forever, until death do them part, in exchange for taking care of another. And back in the lower frequency energies, this was fine. This fit the bill. This is 3D at its most common expression, in fact. But she would be standing there cringing because on a deep level, she knew that the most important thing that any being can do for themselves is give themselves the freedom to hear our guidance and act upon it. And relationships are not the only blockers to that. Common work jobs, any situation where you have an obligation to be there for someone else, that obligation, it imprisons both beings. There is a allegory or line in the Course which talks about how there can be no prisoner without a prison guard. And so who is free if someone is the prison guard and they must watch the prisoner? Are they really free? No, they are not. And we are pure in our expression. We are so clear that it is important to have community. You cannot go through this ascension journey alone. But many of you have created lives that were drafts. They were draft lives. And now it is time to choose your family intentionally. It is time to surround yourselves with beings who will help you to see the light, love, and peaceful interpretations of the situations, who will help you to expand your world so that you can understand that every experience you had has served you and in fact is going to serve your purpose as we move into the 5D. That is the beauty of these tragedies. The tragedy of her father passing, this dear being, has been the greatest gift of her whole life. The greatest gift of her whole life. And so there is so much we can say about these tragic situations, about these attachments, but we will tell you that when you do start to find the light, when you do start to choose to see again the situation that you are in, you will realize that it was always serving you. It was never against you. And that your beautiful dear husband, while he is not an energetic match for you any longer, he has served you in his exact perfect way that he was meant to. He is and was perfect. And now you are all being challenged to take another leap of faith, to step out into the world on your own, to step into your journey. Many of you have been afraid to live, and so you have taken the cultural training of a partner, of a house, of a this and that, and all these attachments. And yet, the more weighed down you are by these attachments, the less freedom of choice you have. And the second that you have freedom of choice, you will find there are millions of people out there who are on this path, who are going through divorces, going through grief of any kind, moving through these experiences, and want people like you, dear Linn, to be with them because they know that you're spiritually evolved. They know that you understand what they're going through. And as the time continues to move forward, it is going to be unbearable to be out of alignment. And so as light workers, many of you went first. You lost your fathers, you lost your husbands, you had horrible accidents and tragedies occur. And yet you are meant to go through these experiences as the light, as the foragers, as the explorers into a new realm. Your job here on earth is to take these 3D situations and turn them into 5D, to take the trench warfare of a divorce, which comes with no aims of peace and just tends to be concentrated around inflicting harms on each other. These are the wars that we must get out of. These are the experiences that we must find neutrality towards. It always takes two to tango. It always is a co-creation. And so A being can be mad at you, a being can be sad at you, a being can be anything at you. And you can still send them love, and you can still hold loving space for them with appropriate boundaries for protecting what you need. And you can also take time away from someone because that is what you need. That is okay. You are not hurting anyone by taking care of yourself. In fact, when you become the highest expression of yourself, only then can you truly know how your children and how your past ex loved ones and past loved ones were meant to be in your life. Right now, things are rocky, and that is because there is a misalignment, a deep misalignment that has been occurring. This has been occurring for everyone. Everyone has been living out of alignment. That is 3D. If you were in alignment, you would not be on this planet. You came here for misalignment. You came here to understand misalignment so that you could correct it. You came here to take tiny steps toward freedom, which, when amalgamated together, create a whole new life. And while this can come from tragedy, it can come from a seeming destruction of all that you've created, it is from that destruction that new seeds begin to grow. And with patience and willingness and the constant evoking of spirit to guide you, it is a wonderful journey. And so while we hold compassion for you, dear Linn, and we send you love in what you're experiencing, we hold loving space for anyone experiencing a 3D emotion. We also wish to tell you how excited we are for you. We see that this temporary moment of upset is going to be the flame that lights your life on fire, that takes the safe life that you were living and transforms it into the full expression of who Linn is, of who Linn can be. And there is so much here for you. There is so much left for you. There is beautiful love. There is beautiful creation. There is partnership. It is all available to you. But the universe, your guides and teachers, will not be attracting that into you until you have had some shifts in clarity, some shifts in understanding, some focus upon love for yourself, for in all that giving and all that sacrifice and all of that, there is much nurturing that needs to be done. We think that sometimes many beings underestimate how traumatized you all have been. And this is not to dote on the 3D, but to remind you that an extended period of offness, of time off, of gentleness for the self is required for most beings at this time. For there are a lot of 3D wounds that are healing, and they are healing fast, but they need the time, the space. They need your attention. They need your gentle, loving attention and the gentle, loving attention of spirit, who will invoke quantum decision making on your behalf. So when you have a situation that is easy for you to be neutral to, or is where you're sort of at the top of the spiral of understanding and you can just let it fly by, we say, do not react and do not make it real. And when you are coming out of the trenches and the lower aspects of the spiral of understanding and you are climbing your way out, we say, make it not real when you can, and then feel your emotions when you can't. Those emotions are telling you something. And so there is no one way to go about a situation. There's no one right answer, except that there will come a day when this situation that deeply triggered you, you will be at the top of the spiral of understanding. And from that place, you will be able to see your ex with his new girlfriend, or see the destruction of your family, and you will let it go, knowing that you don't know what it is for. You don't know what anything is for. You don't even know your own best interest. And this is something we do not say lightly, for when in the trenches of these situations, it can seem like a cruel thing to say, but it is actually the most loving thing we can say. We promise you that you will look back and see how this has served you. And in the meantime, it is an opportunity to practice trust. It is an opportunity to become more of who you are, because that is your mission, and all else has been a distraction. All else has been a distraction. this is something we emphasize. And we will close with this. As we've spoken of the spirals of understanding today, we want to paint a metaphor for you about this, because divorce can be one of these situations at the bottom. The spiral of understanding is a metaphor for your experience in separation. And so in lower 3D consciousness, you only have a tiny understanding, a tiny perspective of what is going on and why it is happening. And as you move up and up the spiral, the circle gets wider. And that is a direct correlation to what you perceive, to what you understand, the knowledge you have that is aligned with spirit, that is aligned with love. And so you start in the 3D separated state. And as you go up higher and higher and higher and higher, your understanding becomes more whole and more inclusive and more infinite. And so eventually you get to the top. And that is what this lifetime is about. It is you taking the higher frequency loving energies and bringing it in so that you can widen your perspective, you can widen your understanding. And those who have studied spirituality know that the more they know, the less they know. What this life comes down to is to look on each experience, feel into what spirit is telling you to do, and following that step. And that is why freedom is so important to us, because if you want to live the life you always wanted, you must have the freedom to look on an experience, to ask us for guidance, and to take that step. And yet right from the get-go, here on earth, you are put into relationships, into contractual situations with houses, with work, that do not allow this. And so beings manifest illness or upset or don't feel well. And it is because they are not even allowed to follow their guidance. The one thing that you all have that is your safety net, that is your cord to us. And so our emphasis now is going to be any ways that you can create space for yourself. If you can take a few days off of work to get into flow, if you can take a month off to let everything go and see what you're feeling, this is becoming so important. These tools are going to be the future currency. If you can transmute situations, if you can find the peaceful perspective, if you can be moving up the spiral of understanding, that is quantum work. And quantum work is essential as the energies rise, because 3D is no longer resonating, and logical, financial, safety decision making will no longer serve. It will harm. And you will see as time goes on that many beings do not have these tools, but they can be shown them by you working through these situations. So we have handed you these situations early, and now we are telling you that we are here to guide you through them. We are here for you. And dear Linn, before we close this channeling, we would like to say that relaxation can bring clarity. And so if you feel inspired, getting an energy session from a local healer or calling upon this being for a session of clarity, for a healing touch session that can allow relaxation in the body, that will allow us to come in and show you visions of what can be now that this situation, this very sticky situation, it was not serving you. There was pure love there, of course. You are a pure loving being, but it is not aligned anymore. And now it is time for you to take your path. And we are here with you. We have spoken a lot today, and this situation, this topic, it is complicated from the 3D perspective, and we do our best to send this message with love. We want you to know that we love you all so much. There is nothing you could do. There is no time you must make a decision or time you must embrace how we perceive things, if ever. We are here for you. We support you, and we will guide you in any way we can, so long as you call us in and ask for our help. We will be there. We are the Arcturian Council with Saint-Germain, and this topic will be continued to be spoken about, and we will speak to you all again at another time. Oh my God. Okay, so I knew this video was going to be kind of long. I knew that they were going to have a lot to say. It's when you just come from the quantum of don't make it real, that's the quickest answer. But when we start to get into the 3D, it gets complicated. And so, um, even though it's not, but it is. And so yeah, so if you're still here, I hope you enjoy this channeling. If you have any more questions, we'll definitely be going into this topic. When an upset feels real, it just feels real, and it is. But the whole work is to find our way back to peace, and that's the main message. And they're not worried about how long it takes for you to get back to peace. They're just here to help you see the peace whenever you're ready and whenever you decide that it's time. So just know that I hope that there's no judgment or unlovingness that comes across in this channeling. My guides are always trying to be super gentle, but they also want you all to know what the truth is and how to start making the decisions that will really change your life. And having freedom is really important. They've been placing that in me for a long time, and a lot of times I've had to make uncomfortable decisions that aren't aligned with the norm. But the freedom that I get, it allows me to grow. It allows me to make quantum leaps. And I think many of us aren't as familiar with that growth because there hasn't been even the opportunity for it. That's kind of the cruelness of this world. We're brought so deeply into attachment so quickly, and we're trained into it, and then we think we are supposed to get all our happiness from it, but it's not working. And I'm seeing that a lot with a lot of different situations within myself. So yeah, so Lynn, I hope this wasn't too much for you. I just want you to know that it took me so long to channel this video because I just know the guides have a lot to say about your many questions and relationships and all that. And so I really wanted to be in the best state I could to bring them through. And yeah, so if you have any more questions or if anyone has anything else that they would like me to channel on, I'm happy to do that. I actually really love questions. It extends my ability as a channeler. So if you're still here, thanks for being here. I love you guys so much, and I will speak to you again at another time.